fight for their love until the end.
Well, good evening. It's a great pleasure to have you with us on KBC Prime this very, very busy Tuesday, as you just saw right there in the studio. And also out there, motorist Chris crossing the country in search of fuel.
And storing some, hoping that they would travel this weekend because it's going to be a very long weekend.
Exactly.
Easter,
yeah. And by the way, traditionally, we have always traveled up country to go and celebrate Easter with our loved ones. I wonder how it's going to turn out this time around.
We have been doing that, but remember, not until 2 years ago, in 2020, when COVID checked in and people could not travel. Last year, again, people were not able to travel. But right now, they're free to.
They're free to. And yet, there is this crisis. Well, all that coming up in this live broadcast. But first, our top stories. Persistent pain at the pump. Outcry as fuel shortage continues to bite.
Bill at the third stage, party losers may have a lifeline.
International Day for Street Children. Our senior reporter, Safina Chien, walks you through a day in the life of a street child. There you are. Many thanks indeed for joining us. My name is Mboya.
My name is Museo. Tonight we ask you, what are your Easter plans?
Where are you headed to? You can speak to us on our social media platforms.
At KBC Channel 1 News, at Purity_Museo, at Mboya24. The hashtag is Prime Edition. And Anne Wangeshi is our sign language interpreter tonight.
Our continued coverage of the fuel crisis. Motorists say that the persisting fuel crisis is slowly bringing critical operations to a halt.
Those who spent hours in long queues waiting to fuel are calling for interventions to address the shortage.
Zainab Said opens our coverage tonight with that report.
These are the scenes witnessed Tuesday at few fuel stations that had fuel within the city. Long queues as motorists anxiously wait to fill their tanks. To meet the demand, most pump stations have now been forced to ration their sales to a maximum of 2,000 Kenyan shillings, forcing some motorists to hop from one station to another trying to fill their tanks.
Ni line imepangwa sasa, ukijaribu kupanga hiyo line labda utakuta kama ile yenye uko nayo itaisha ndani sasa. Sasa ni heri ukiona kama imeelekea sana unaamua kujipa shughuli.
Nimetafuta kutoka nikienda Kiambu, nimetoka kutoka Westlands mpaka Kiambu, hakuna mafuta, ni jam tu. Mahali unakuta mafuta, unakuta jam. Hata ukitafuta kuchukua jerrycan ni shida tu, hakuna mafuta, unakosa unaenda.
Some even claiming the pump attendants were cashing on the crisis by defrauding them. Francis Mahanu says though he had paid 2,000 Kenyan shillings, the fuel he got did not match his pay.
Wakati nimefika hapa wakaniambia mwisho ni shilingi 1,000 ngapi? 2,000, na nikakubali. Sikuwa na cash, nikasema nilipiwa na kampuni. Nikapiga simu kwa kampuni ilipe pesa. Wakatuma shilingi 2,000 kwa dili yao. Baada ya kurudi kuangalia kama wameniwekea mafuta, tayari wameshatoa pump.
Motorists warning that the current situation, if unchecked, will grind the nation to a halt.
Ilisainiwa. Kama imesainiwa ni tuletewe mafuta. Si tukae siku 5 bila mafuta. Kama saa hii motorbike yangu iko Isagaki. Ikiwa Isagaki na nimekujia mafuta Murang'a na saa hii ni line haijamaliza kumwagwa kwani na ni usiku.
For Prime Edition, I'm Zainab Said.
Well, the fuel shortage continuing to bite, many Kenyans falling on hard times, and we hope that the situation will become better.
Absolutely.
Sooner rather than later.
Sooner, before Easter.
Before Easter. Yeah. 8 more political parties have joined the Kenya Kwanza Alliance led by Deputy President William Ruto ahead of the August 9th general election.
Though the parties will retain their distinct identities, they will campaign as one of their alliance's presidential candidates.
Now, during the signing of the pact, the Deputy President termed the move by our parties a clear demonstration that Kenyans identify with aspirations of Kenya Kwanza. JJ Kuria reports.
The Kenya Kwanza Alliance had until Tuesday morning 4 political parties under the umbrella coalition after the Democratic Party led by National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi joined the outfit. 8 political parties Tuesday signing up to join the coalition, bringing the total number of parties under Kenya Kwanza to 12. Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria's Chama cha Kazi, Embu Governor Martin Wambora's Umoja na Maendeleo Party, former Kiambu Governor William Kabogo's Tujibebe wa Kenya Party, former Agriculture CS Mwangi Kiunjuri's TSP, the Farmers Party, the Economic Freedom Party, the Devolution Party of Kenya, and the Communist Party of Kenya, pledging to work together with other parties in Kenya Kwanza to advance economic prosperity in the country.
Change the fortunes of our citizens and put money in people's pockets. The alliance on the other side is about changing the constitution. That's where the difference is.
Kenya Kwanza wants to put the Kenyans ahead of everything else.
We want Kenya where everybody lives with dignity and everybody demands and gets respect.
Baada ya tarehe 9 tutawapatiwa Kenya matumaini.
Deputy President William Ruto and his co-principals taking a swipe at their rivals in the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party, accusing them of advancing politics of deceit.
Blindfold people into an agreement that they have not read, that they have not understood, and that they later have to complain about. I think it is the height of impunity. The worst form of corruption is the corruption of trust.
What we are seeing somewhere else is that there is a resurrection of that trust deficit.
The parties under Kenya Kwanza say they have coalesced willingly, accusing a section of political actors of attempting to interfere with their affairs.
Hatukusukumwa wala kuvurutwa. Na ni kwa sababu lengo letu kama chama cha Tujibebe ni kuinua hali ya maisha wa Kenya.
I forgot how to lose elections 20 years ago. I forgot. I don't know how to. And we are going to win this one. Make no mistake.
I want to order you mara moja kutoka leo, all the posters, all the billboards will bear the picture of our great leader William Ruto mara moja.
The alliance is hopeful that it will trounce its rivals in under 120 days. John Jacob Kuria, Prime Edition.
Now, the Orange Democratic Movement fraternity has eulogized the late Jonathan Nyukuri, who was a trustee of the party, as a loyal servant who gave it all for the Orange Party.
Speaking at a ceremony to celebrate the life of the late Nyakuri, the party's Secretary General Edwin Sifuna said it will take time before ODM finds another trustee like him.
Sentiments echoed by party's treasurer Timothy Bosire, who termed the late Nyukuri as a source of abundant wisdom.
For you to become a trustee of ODM, I am telling you, my friend, you must be trusted from toe to to her. We have lost an extremely important pillar of ODM. In fact, I can assure you that we will scratch our heads for at least another 1 year just to find somebody of the standing and stature to take that place of the trustee for the party. So nataka niseme pole sana kwa familia.
Was a humble mzee, was a leader, was a committed member of the party, and he was determined to see the party through for national leadership in this country. He has gone at a time. We have very high expectations that that is about to happen. But life being what it is, we wish the family comfort. You have lost an asset in your family and in your community, but together we extend warm prayers so that you may find solace in the Lord as you go through this.
Moving on, Azimio la Umoja Executive Director Raphael Tuju has dismissed claims of a fallout in the Raila Odinga-led Azimio One Kenya coalition.
Speaking after chairing a meeting of all Azimio Oka Secretary Generals, Tuju said the coalition is intact and focused on winning the August 9th polls.
Here's that report.
A day after One Kenya Alliance coalition allegedly wrote to the Registrar of Political Parties to stop the process of registering Azimio One Kenya Alliance, Azimio la Umoja Executive Director Raphael Tuju has addressed the emerging cracks in the political faction, saying the coalition is intact and any turbulence in the Azimio One Kenya Alliance will be resolved.
We are consulting on how we're going to move forward. We have generally agreed that we'll be guided by the very important principles of guiding a big coalition such as ours. We have agreed on what our goal is. Our goal is that our presidential candidate wins on 9th of August, and everything else, that is the beacon we are looking at, and all of us standing here, there's consensus on that.
Elsewhere, Kiambu Governor hopeful Patrick Wainaina has dispelled rumors making rounds on social media that he had withdrawn from the race in support for Senator Kimani Wamatangi. The Thika town legislator, who will be battling it out with Wamatangi and former Governor Ferdinand Waititu for the UDA ticket during the party nominations slated for Thursday this week, termed the claims as ill-timed propaganda.
Safari hii wananchi wa Kiambu, tafadhali muangalie mtu, muangalie track record, ile kazi amefanya. Usiende ukachagua mtu na hana kazi amefanya. Wakati huu ama safari hii tunataka kuangalia mtu kama anaweza kufanya ile kazi, tunataka kuangalia uaminifu wa yule mtu, tunataka kuangalia kama huyu mtu anaweza fanya kazi na wengine, na Wainaina wa Jango akona uaminifu, amejitolea kufanya hii kazi na amejitolea kuwa anaungana na wananchi wa Kiambu, tujenge Kiambu, tuibadilishe ikuwe na maji, barabara, hawa vijana wapate riziki.
And Nyeri Senator Ephraim Maina gubernatorial bid on a Jubilee ticket received a major boost after teachers from primary and secondary schools backed him. Led by officials of Kenya National Union of Teachers Nyeri branch, the teachers termed Maina as a corrupt free man.
The successful governments have not been good enough to the teachers, teaching fraternity in this country, because the teachers today are going through all forms of hardships, especially with the county governments. They don't seem to recognize them. For example, in Nyeri at all.
Meanwhile, former NGCS Charles Keter has suffered a blow in the race for Kericho governorship after two of his competitors teamed up ahead of Thursday's party nominations. Dr. Eric Mutai, one of the frontrunners for the Kericho gubernatorial seat, and engineer Fred Kirui resolved to work together as a team.
This decision was arrived at after wide consultation with the people of Kericho County.
Yes.
This unity of purpose is meant to enhance the quality of service delivery and spur economic development of our great county.
Well, that's how it looked like in the space of politics. Let's now cross over into health. First Lady Margaret Kenyatta has called for collaborative efforts in ending the coronavirus pandemic.
Speaking during the inauguration of the International Conference on Health Promotion, the First Lady said an information gap has reduced the vaccine uptake in Kenya, reversing gains in tackling the disease.
Ruth Mboya reports.
Welcome, Your Excellency.
The theme of the two-day International Conference on Health Promotion is promoting health during and beyond COVID-19. In her opening remarks, the First Lady Margaret Kenyatta said the pandemic has brought a change of mindset in how people go about their daily activities.
Efficacy of the COVID-19 has determined that the vaccines increase our protection from the virus. We are not safe unless we are all vaccinated. Going forward, we must ensure that our health promotion efforts are inclusive.
She said despite disrupting lives and livelihoods, the pandemic has offered lessons that will help nations cope with such crises in future.
This is why it is critical that we share our lessons and learnings from this pandemic and align our recovery measures with long-term sustainable strategies. Most notable has been the important contribution of health promotion in tackling the challenge of the COVID-19 threat.
Sentiments echoed by UNICEF Country Director Dr. Maniza Zaman and other stakeholders who called for nations to double their efforts if they are to realize the Sustainable Development Goals within the 8 years remaining.
We need to redouble our efforts, innovate, accelerate, and specially find ways to reach those who are being left behind.
Time is ripe for us to begin reconceptualization of how health promotion will support the generation of health for current and future generations.
However, Kenyans argue that focus on attaining the SDGs should not lose sight of the disruption of livelihoods by the pandemic.
I should be a little person who should fight against those problems in our times. So even if it means wearing masks, that is not a problem to me.
More than 2 years down the line after the pandemic struck, what are the hits and misses for nations? Only this 2 days conference here will pardon the answers. Reporting for Prime Edition from Kenyatta University, I'm Ruth Mboya.
Now, individuals who lose at party primaries will have 10 days to shift from political parties and run as independent candidates in the general election.
This comes after legislators adopted amendments in the Election Amendment Bill 2022, seeking to give the 10-day window for disgruntled aspirants to jump ship.
That's right. Now, the resolution renders a legislation proposed by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission applicable.
With the deadline of party nominations fast approaching, individuals who may feel shortchanged can now breathe a sigh of relief. Legislators on Tuesday overturned proposals in the Political Parties Act that sought to block losers in the party nominations from contesting as independent.
If people complain, let them come, let them go independent, and let us face each other off. So that window of 10 days, Madam Speaker, I'm okay with it, because so that people don't feel that they are being oppressed.
While endorsing amendments in the Elections Amendment Bill 2022, the lawmakers approved the 10-day window, claiming the move would enhance democracy in the political arena.
They should be given that opportunity. And this, Madam Chair, I think will put parties in check so that you don't apply anything that maybe might not be applicable as far as democracy is concerned.
At the same time, MPs opposed proposals by IEBC barring media houses from broadcasting live electoral results, claiming the Commission does not have the mandate to bar live broadcasting under the law.
IEBC has no business in regulating what TV stations do. That is for somebody else to regulate. Once they announce their results, once they put the results in the portal, other broadcasters can now use that information without having IEBC being the one regulating or determining how that live streaming will take place. We should not have a problem with nomination, with elections, just because we can now not take it to the people to see what the polling stations have done. There must be a legal framework for doing that transmission. It is transmission that was the problem, was the issue of post-election violence, not the way Kenyans went to vote. It was the transmission problem. So to say that we can have an election without transmission, I think is idle.
For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Very well. The War on Terror, International Day for Street Kids, and Tattered Dreams, all coming up.
Absolutely.
After this short break.
Stay with us.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Ili kupata mafuta kupanda kama skiza tune kwenye simu yako, bonyeza *811 397 hash.
Nashukuru serikali kwa kuongeza bei ya mafuta. Sasa niko kwa highway na hakuna traffic hata kidogo. Naomba serikali iendelee hivyo, tubaki tu watu ya gasla na heavy machine peke yake. Pia mimi naomba huyu serikali waseme kama gari yako ni below 3000 cc, gari yako
ili kupata mafuta kupanda kama skiza tune, bonyeza *811 397 hash. *811 397 hash.
This time, I will follow my heart and love the one I care for.
How can you be so terribly selfish? Don't you know how hard it was for me to raise Sean? Now you're taking him away. It's like you're taking a piece of my flesh. Do you understand?
Step away!
Hands off!
Welcome back. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has called on schools with pending projects on CBC classroom construction to complete them ahead of the May schools reopening.
The CS noted although the competence-based curriculum classroom construction project had hit 90% rate countrywide, some counties like Machakos were still lagging behind.
Brian Windy with counties.
Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has lauded the progress of the construction of CBC classrooms, saying they've achieved a 90% completion rate and urged counties still lagging behind to move with speed and complete the project.
We have constructed over 5,000 classrooms, with the remaining ones nearing completion. Most of them are at roofing and finishing level. I believe that we shall deliver, so that I can brief His Excellency the President that the first 6,487 classrooms are completely built.
Meanwhile, healthcare stakeholders from the private sector as well as the national and county governments converge in Nairobi to deliberate on Kenya's digital health innovation towards the universal health coverage agenda.
The conference comes at a time when the health sector is fast adapting to the use of technology to address healthcare challenges, while at the same time improving efficiency in the way service delivery is done.
Elsewhere, Rotary International has allocated over 4 million shillings towards the protection of water springs in Ugunja sub-county in Siaya County. The project, to be implemented through the Nairobi Utumishi Club, will see the rehabilitation of 30 springs with the aim to improve the community's quality of life through provision of clean water.
In this particular project of water, our concern is that water being health, giving people clean, safe water is improving the quality of life. And for this project, we have a total of 30 springs to be protected.
Finally, a family of Udaward aspirant in Mombasa County is crying for justice and thorough investigations into the death of their kin who allegedly died in police custody. According to his brother Billy Musakale, the late Andrew Musakale was picked from his home in Jomvuku, Jomvi constituency Monday night by alleged police officers from Makindani police station for allegedly failing to pay 50,000 shillings debt.
Changaza ni ubwana kama alikuwa kweli ameenda kuchukuliwa nyumbani. Kama unaenda kuchukuliwa nyumbani, si lazima kuna mtu mlalamishi huwa ameandika. Lakini pale haiko kivipi? Pana nini? Yani pana nini panajiri pale?
For Prime Edition, I am Brian Mwindi.
Now, the item on war on terrorism, the government has announced the capacity to combat terrorism by coming up with guidelines intended to improve the organizational partnership between investigative agencies and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Speaking in Nairobi during the launch of the guidelines, the DPP Nordin Haji said the guidelines will bolster the fight against money laundering and terrorism in financing in Kenya. Timothy Kipnusu reports.
Lack of full cooperation between investigative agencies has undermined the war on terrorism.
At the cornerstone of the global fight against terrorism is the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1373, which called on all member states to work together urgently through increased cooperation and full implementation of the relevant international conventions relating to terrorism.
It is for this reason that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, in collaboration with the criminal justice actors and civil society organizations, introduced stringent guidelines that will enhance synergy among them in the war on money laundering and financing of terrorism in Kenya.
I would like to emphasize that these guidelines are intended to serve as a resource for stakeholders as they work to ensure the investigation and prosecution of terrorism and related offenses, including financing terrorism, is conducted in accordance with the rule of law.
Inspector General of Police Hirali Mutiambai and the Central Bank of Kenya Governor Patrick Njoroge concurred on the need to enhance capacity to deal with the emerging trends of terrorism.
Private sector also, including banks, money remittance providers, and mobile network services providers, also have valuable contribution to make in the effort to combat terrorism financing.
We have suffered as well in Europe, and it is in the end a global phenomenon that does require collaboration. It requires collaboration between agencies in a country, but then also collaboration across countries.
For Prime Edition, I'm Brian Mwindi.
Moving on, the National Assembly's Administration and Security Committee will probe measures the government is putting in place to contain rising cases of insecurity in Isiolo. Residents have urged the government to beef up security in the region following a banditry attack that left 9 herders dead. Now the residents want a disarmament exercise conducted in the area to ensure that firearms are not left in the hands of criminals.
Tension remains high in Borat area of Isiolo County after Friday's banditry attack that left several herders dead. Survivors of the attack are currently nursing gunshot wounds at Isiolo County Referral Hospital. 5 of them who escaped death by a whisker say the attack was planned and well executed, with approximately 300 raiders combing their manyatas and livestock grazing areas.
Unajua walikuwa wameshatuzingira na walikuwa watu wengi, so ni mamtaro tu ndo mingi hiyo ndo litokoa, naingia kwa mtaro unatokea na mbele ukielekeanga. Baada hapo ni mapikipiki ndio ilitukujia ikaturusha hospitali.
Nilikuwa nimetoka hapa asubuhi nikafika huko saa 8 kwenda kuchukua maziwa. Wenye tu nimeenda kuchukua maziwa nikajipata niko katikati yao karibu na boma. Ndio wakaanza kunishoot, wakadhani nimekufa, wakaenda.
The residents now want the government to conduct a disarmament exercise to ensure illegal firearms are flushed out.
Tunaomba hiyo watu kama itawezekana waondolewe kabisa kwa ajili wamekuja na silaha kila aina. Na wamekuja kivita kabisa, si eti hata kutafuta malisho.
Wale wametoka kauti kingine tunaomba waondolewe. Na warudishe na wanyang'anye bunduki na hiyo ngamia turudishiwe na serikali kama wanaweza.
The recent attacks have now prompted the National Assembly Administration and Security Committee to announce that it will probe measures put in place by the government to contain the situation in the county.
We are losing lives, and actually part of the county is completely cut off. An entire sub-county called Merti, people could not, actually we are literally under siege.
Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
Now, the government will establish more rehabilitation centers to accommodate the rising number of street children.
Nairobi County representative of the Family and Children Services Department, Robert Mwema, is now asking Kenyans to support the government's rehabilitation efforts.
He said this will rid the county of street families apart from providing shelter to the homeless. Here's that report.
Kenya joined the rest of the world to celebrate the International Day of Street Children at various centers across the country. At St. John's Community Center, Pumwani, Nairobi, reformed street children from different rehabilitation centers came together to showcase their talents. Representatives of the several street children consortiums were here too as part of this year's theme, celebrating frontline workers and protecting every child. Despite previous successes in rescuing and bringing some street children back to their centers, a lot of work still needs to be done.
The civil society does their work, the government does their work, but at the end of the day, there is no coordination to ensure that everything works out smoothly.
Hiyo life ya street ilikuwa ngumu sana, na ile life nilipitia, mbona it's high time sisi wenye tumereform, we can make change. Ndio maana tunaona umuhimu, koziki yetu tushaiva.
The tough life in the streets has also seen many hold on to rehabilitation centers.
Nimeona maisha ya street ni ngumu. Hapo maisha inaenda. Hata maaskari wenyewe zitaka tulale saa hii. Wanatufuguza, wanasema tunafuta hizi vitu mbaya mbaya. Sasa nimeamua kurudi shule niende Kamulu. Naweza furahia sana nikipelekwa.
Ningependa kwenda kwa center, lakini bado kuna ma street boy kadhaa bado kunao, kama tunaweza na wao sawa. Pia wasaidike.
The county government is now working on a policy that aims to reducing the population of street children to almost zero.
We have a draft now, and even in this forum, we are getting views from the children, both from the institutions and from the streets. We implement the 4R model, which is rescue, rehabilitation, reintegration, and resocialization.
For these children, unless the society changes its attitudes towards them, the miseries will never end anytime soon.
Ukiona chokora kwa barabara msaidie muokoe sikia shida zake.
The consortiums gathered here today are calling on the national and county governments to boost efforts geared towards rehabilitating street children and families back into the society, even as they look towards a street children-free Kenya. Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition from the St. John Community Center, Nairobi.
And by the way, if you look at the data of the 2018 National Census of Street Families, close to 47,000 persons live in the Kenyan streets, 15,000 being children who are aged below the age of 19.
And as the world marks the year 2022 International Day for Street Children, Safina Cheng spent time with street urchins in different parts of Nairobi and picked their experiences.
Here now is the feature.
Pula na wewe uniambie toka hapa kitoto hii enda kwenu. Lakini mimi nasema Mungu najua hujanisahau.
Hata ukiangalia watu wengi hapa, nguo na viatu ndio shida, wengine wamevalia ringanisha. Hata kama ni chakula mtakuwa tu mnatuletea, tuwezi kataa.
For many of them, crime is the only readily available means to survive, which makes them an easy target for law enforcers and mob justice. Their lives can be wiped out in a minute with no questions.
Wengine ni kukufa juu ya kulewa, wengine ni kupigwa. Unaona ile kuwekelewa makosa, amefanya kitu na hajafanya, wapata mraia inachukua action against him na inamjaji na baki wanamuua, either wanamdiscipline mpaka anakufa.
Na masafara wezetu wanatuacha, wanaitwa na Mungu.
Regardless of these challenges, they are focused on what they want.
Ndio nitoke hapa, tuseme kufunguliwa biashara either ya upishi ama ya sala, unaona. Ndio niweze kutoka kwa hii life, nifike stage next yenye baadaye itakuja kunifikisha kwa dream yangu ya kuachieve music.
It's mid-afternoon at the Koinonia Community Center in Dagoretti South, Nairobi. A center that is now acting as a fountain of hope for hundreds of children rescued from the streets. Here we meet Ndegwa. Today he is leading his peers to rehearse for an upcoming talent show. His great mastery of the art could perhaps obfuscate his former life as a street urchin, a past he chooses not to forget.
Kwa street nimekaa for 3 years to 4 hapo. Na kitu ilituma niingie kwa kutumia drugs. Yani ni friends wapya. Unajua nimeshatoka nyumbani nimeingia street. Siwezi kaa peke yangu. Kuna ma friends nimepata huko. Hao ndio walianza kunifunza hizi mambo. Sasa unajua ukikaa na msee sana uone anafanya hiki kitu, pia yeye lazima utataka kuifanya ujue iko aje. So pia mimi nikajoin kwa hizo drugs, nikaanza kuzitumia mpaka zikaniaddict, yani singekaa bila hiyo drug.
Ironically, regardless of the tough life, the pull of the streets proved too strong for him.
Kuna venye unaweza kutoa mtu yuko street umpeleke shule mara moja, because lazima kwanza arekebishe ajue nini anataka. So pale kwa rescue unaona sana siku ya kwanza umeingia, bado kuna wale marafiki ulitoka nao street. So bado kuna ile bado mnachochana. Bado ile kiu ijaisha. Unasikia kuna kitu umemiss huko hivyo street. So ndio mnaanza kuchochana, sijui mnataka nini, huku ni kubaya what, ndio muende.
When he finally yielded, he found not just a home but a new lease of life.
Hii center imenipea vitu nyingi sana. Nimegain vitu nyingi sana zenye hata sikuwa najua. Ukiangalia hapa, hii ni group yangu ya acrobat. Mimi nachapanga acrobat na dance. Hizo vitu zote nimejulia huku na nikufunzwa. Arasa hii hata siamini kama mimi ni acrobat, sikuwa najua kitu. Ndio kuna mtu azali yangu akijua. Hapa nimegain vitu nyingi sana. Nimesoma sasa hivi kwa la kuna
help. Sometimes a little help. Because if we help them before they fall into that big hole that is the use of drugs and so on, we help them before that moment, we can really save time for ourselves and for them. We can save their lives.
So what exactly is the best approach of realizing a street family-free country?
For you to see that child in the street, something ought to have happened within the family. So there's this reintegration and the issue to deal with the financial issues, the economic situation within the family needed to be dealt with before we end to the street.
Lakini mimi naweza penda kwa sana nikirudi home mtu asinichukie. Juu si kupenda kwangu. Unajua kila mtu anakuanga na maisha yake. Kila mtu anapanga na life yake, tuseme hivyo. Sisi tunaweza kuambia God ablessiwe sana, juu tuko hapa, tuko uhai sana. Watu wanatutukananga, watu wataongea vibaya, lakini hatufurahii.
Realizing a street family's free country is a burden that the government alone cannot carry. It calls for collaborative efforts by multilateral actors who not only need to invest in improving the living conditions of street families, but also focus on preventive measures to curb the surge. Reporting for Prime Edition, I'm Safin Acheng Ouma.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online, pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use, msiwache strangers wapate chance kuwa abuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na ikwe private say identity yangu haupati utumi. Ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia. Huwezi nicheza.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo views. Una text all to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes ama nitakureport for real.
Huwezi tucheza, tuko smart so huwezi tucheza.
Wazazi, watoi na mayouth wetu, don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Karen, open the door, please.
They will fight for their love until the end.
Unamtoa huyu kwake ukamleta hapa. Lea dadangu, mimi sijakuja vita hapa.
Mimi na Kate tumeshatengana, lakini talaka haijapita.
Sasa hiyo mali yote ni ya nini? Na hailiki, ina uchungu. Usione kama mbele nilikuficha na muacha.
Arudi huko ukaishi, kwa sababu mimi hapa sikutaki Kate.
Sitaki msaada kuhusiana na jambo lolote lile. Hata linalomhusulia pia sitaki.
Welcome back. Let's now take a look at matters of business. My name is Carol Jenga. The government has issued an alert of a possible increase in the African armyworm invasion in 11 counties, namely Taita Taveta, Murang'a, Tharaka Nithi, Makueni, Kitui, Kajiado, Nakuru, Narok, Kwale and Kilifi. The Tsavo, Amboseli and Masai Mara National Reserve have also been identified as massive breeding grounds for the destructive pests that have been sighted in western Kenya and parts of the Rift Valley.
The African armyworm is a migratory moth, the caterpillars of which are important pests of pastures and cereal crops. Over time, population increases and mass migration of moths occur, covering many thousands of square kilometers and traversing international boundaries, posing a threat to food security and pasture for livestock. Owing to delayed rains, the government is on high alert over a possible explosion of the invasive pest in at least 11 counties. The Ministry of Agriculture is monitoring Taita Taveta, Murang'a, Tharaka Nithi, Makueni, Kitui, Kajiado, Nakuru, Narok, Kwale and Kilifi counties, as well as the game reserves such as Tsavo, Amboseli and Masai Mara that have been identified as breeding grounds for the destructive pests.
Peter Munya akiwa waziri wa kilimo Kenya mzima, atuangalie sisi kama wakazi wa Bumula sub-county eneo la Naholo tunateseka na hii janga ambalo limetukumba. Tunaomba serikali ingilie kati kwa sababu sisi ni wakulima hohehahe.
Mwaka huu imekuwa mabadiliko kubwa sana. Wajua watu wanaenda kuumia. Chakula hakuna, maji hakuna. Chakula yenye watu walikuwa wamepanda mahindi, mdudu amekuja amevamia. Sasa hakuna kitu yote kwa shamba.
So far, the pests have been reported in Western Kenya and parts of Rift Valley.
Minister wa kilimo wa kaunti ya Bungoma, hasa sana tuna matajiri ambao wanajiweza, wanaweza nunua dawa wakaweze kupuliza, lakini tuna wengine hawajiwezi kununua dawa. Kwa hivyo ningeomba kwa wale ambao hawajapuliza mashamba yao, viongozi wakaweze kutembea kwa kila shamba katika kila kijiji wakaweze kupuliza, ndio posa tukaweze kuangamiza hawa wadudu.
Owing to the pest's short life cycle, high reproductive capacity and mobility, the Ministry of Agriculture is calling for reactivation of community-based surveillance and monitoring to ascertain presence and control measures such as spraying.
Mvua ikinyesha, hata saa hii mvua ikinyesha itapotea. Itaingia kwa mchanga na ikiingia itakuwa pepeo hii.
Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, Kenya will construct more than 100,000 kilometers of high-speed fiber optic cable connecting all public institutions like schools and government offices. This will also see the government digitize more than 5 billion records in the next 10 years. The plan is contained in the National Digital Master Plan that was launched today by the ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru. Brian Kimani breaks down the master plan.
Kenya aspires to become a globally competitive ICT hub, and this will take the collaboration between the public as well as the private sector. The National Digital Master Plan outlines how that dream is going to be achieved. The National Digital Master Plan deals with 3 key aspects in the development of the ICT sector in the country. The document identifies human capital and workforce development, which aims at developing quality ICT human resources as a prerequisite to the development of viable ICT sector. ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru says the document will ensure that ICT development, implementation and exploitation are an integral and sustainable component of Kenya's development.
This master plan will outline a structured roadmap on the delivery of ICT infrastructure and services, as well as the development of ICT skills. It will also provide guidance on investment priorities to both local and external investors.
Under the 10-year plan, the government plans to build an integrated ICT infrastructure which seeks to provide the infrastructure backbone required to enable cost-effective delivery of ICT products and services in Kenya. This will involve laying over 100,000 kilometers of high-speed fiber optic cable across the entire country.
We've managed to achieve a lot over the last 10 years, which among them is deployment of over 9,000 kilometers of national fiber optic network across the country. We have also managed to train over 2,100 ICT interns to be able to support the industry.
To upskill the public service, 300,000 public service employees will undergo ICT reskilling, which will be undertaken with the help of the Public Service Commission. Already, the government, in conjunction with the Chinese technology giant Huawei, has set a target of training 20,000 public servants in the next 3 years.
The ICT sector is vital in promoting the socio-economic development of our country, as it has the potential to radically and speedily transform every sector of our economy through innovation and digitization.
The implementation of the master plan is estimated to cost more than 4 trillion shillings, which will be sourced from the public coffers as well as the private sector. O'Brien Kimana for Prime Edition.
Moving on, the government is contemplating importing powder milk to plug a deficit occasioned by drought. Livestock Principal Secretary Harry Kimutai says the government is awaiting a report from the Meteorological Department on the onset and intensity of the long rains to inform importation of the powder milk.
Most retail outlets have in recent weeks been facing challenges securing supplies after milk production reduced due to the prolonged drought. The government says the retail price of milk could increase as processors in some regions have increased the farm gate price from 40 shillings to 52 shillings. Livestock Principal Secretary Harry Kimutai says the government is exploring importation of powder milk to help stabilize supplies and prices.
Assessing the situation as of now, we are yet to make a decision because we are looking at the projections. If the rains delay, we might have to look at all options, because for us, it is important that we have enough milk in the country so that we're able to continue sustaining the country.
Modalities such as zero rating dairy products are also on the cards, as the government awaits an advisory from the Meteorological Department.
Will we grant a waiver of duty if it's not coming from the ESC region? Because with the duty, it will become expensive. So those are the possibilities that we are looking at, but we'll make the correct decision at the correct time based on all the facts that we'll have collected.
This comes after Kenya lost millions of shillings in revenue after Oman cancelled dairy products orders due to supply constraints.
New KCC had done a projection that by April they will be able now to have enough to export to Oman, because it was going to coincide with the month of Ramadan. But as I said, it was not possible because of the delayed rains.
Uganda, where Kenya sources dairy products, is also experiencing shortages of milk due to drought. Benson Dioba reporting for Prime Edition.
The Institution of Engineers of Kenya has inaugurated Engineer Eric Ohaga as the new president of the engineering body. Engineer Ohaga has promised to work closely with the University Deans Council to finalize the Memorandum of Understanding with the Commission for University Education to ensure that the challenges facing the accreditation of engineering programs are removed. Details of this and more in our corporate briefs.
The duties of the president.
Engineer Eric Ohaga received the mantle from his predecessor, Engineer Nathaniel Matalanga, as the new president of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya. Engineer Ohaga says he is keen on the finalization of the Memorandum of Understanding with the Commission for University Education to address challenges of accreditation of engineering programs. He says this will ensure that the Engineers Board of Kenya is able to assure the rest of the world that programs in Kenya are up to international standards and fast-track Kenya's journey towards joining the International Engineering Alliance.
We shall carefully review what has been done and to what extent, and based on our assessment, make considerations on the various approaches to take.
Meanwhile, the Association of Medical Engineering of Kenya has finalized training on their new mobile app that will enhance repair and maintenance of medical equipment. The association's chairman, Simon Mbaka, says the new technology would promote better service delivery to patients as well as cut costs for hospitals.
Health applications, more connected health solutions, where you enter names of the patient, get the results, and have maybe a cloud-based solution for data.
CFAO Kenya has invested in Ofgen Limited, a leader in solar PV installation for commercial and industrial use in Eastern Africa. CFAO Kenya Chairman Ambassador Dennis Awori says the investment will help CFAO Group accelerate the penetration of the commercial and industrial renewable energy market. He says CFAO Kenya plans to equip all its facilities in East and Southern Africa region with photovoltaic panels to reduce carbon emissions by more than 1,000 tons annually by the year 2024. Ndutamo Kami for Prime Edition.
Well, as we come to a close, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, ACPAC, is against a proposal that litigants deposit of 50% of the disputed tax revenue in a special account at the Central Bank of Kenya, saying it could have far-reaching consequences. You can find this story and more on our website at kbc.co.ke. And that's why we put a cap on business news tonight. But coming up next is Karen Kibet with a sports update. Have a good night.
preliminary run to Olympia Stadion in Berlin is now less crowded, with only 4 teams out of 64 still in contention. Something more outstanding is that all of the sides to have won the DFB Pokal over the last 29 years are already out this year.
And Leverkusen are knocked out by a Bundesliga 2 side.
In the first DFB Pokal semi-final, Hamburger SV will face Freiburg on Tuesday, the 19th of April 2022 at 9:45 p.m. While in the second semi-final, RB Leipzig will lock horns with Union Berlin on Wednesday, the 20th April 2022 at 9:45 p.m. Having braced the turbulent journey and buoyed up with the trophy in sight, no team want to go down without a fight. You don't want to miss this adventurous football show, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Welcome back. Thank you for keeping it Prime Edition. It's now time for us to talk sports. My name is Karen Kibet. The Kenya national women deaf football team has intensified training at the Moi International Sports Center in Kasarani, Nairobi, ahead of the delayed 2021 Summer Deaf Olympics to be held from the 1st to 15th of May in Brazil. The team, alongside the athletics, basketball, golf and handball teams, have been in camp at the same venue for 12 days.
The Kenya national women deaf football team has continued to train at the Kasarani Stadium 18 days before the Deaf Olympics begin in Brazil. The team, alongside athletics men and women, basketball men and women, golf men and handball men and women, have been in camp at the same venue since 1st of April. In Brazil, the Kenya national women deaf football team will play the host, champion Denmark, Japan and the United States. Head coach Ben Bella says the players are responding well to training, but singled out the defense as the department that needs to spend more hours on ahead of their trip to Brazil.
I'll be working on my defense because it's as if I'm building a new team compared to the one we had last year. Fortunately, we have good defenders. We selected in Kakamega early in the year. And I believe with the setup we have and the set of players we have and what we've been doing so far, the response is very positive, and I believe we are raring to go.
In Brazil, the team might be forced to cope with a small squad of 19 players and not 22 from the initial 35 who made it to the professional squad after some were dropped due to documentation.
Thank you, Buckley, for that report. Now, Africa 100 meters record holder Ferdinand Omanyala of Kenya is aiming for a sub-10 finish during the 4th leg of the ASA Athletics Grand Prix Series at the Gamiston Athletics Stadium in Johannesburg tomorrow night. Omanyala clocked 10.11 seconds to win 100 meters during the 3rd leg of the ASA Athletics Grand Prix Series in South Africa last Wednesday.
African sprint sensation Ferdinand Omanyala will compete tomorrow night against Akani Simbine of South Africa at the Jamestown Athletic Stadium in Johannesburg. However, in this highly anticipated race, Omanyala is more focused on running under 10 seconds more than beating his counterpart Akani.
Preparations toward the season is going on well. I just came from the indoor season, the 60 meters, which was a perfect training. Coming into the outdoor season, I already started my outdoor season with a world leader then, the 10-0, but now it's number 3 in the world because now people are running. So I'm looking forward to more competitions.
Omanyala stopped the clock at 10.11 seconds to win the 100 meters during the 3rd leg of the ASA Athletics Grand Prix Series at the NW MacArthur Athletic Stadium in Potchefstroom last Wednesday. Omanyala is using the ASA Athletics Grand Prix Series as part of his preparations for the African Senior Track and Field Championship set to be held in Mauritius in June this year, and the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, England in July, where he wants to wrestle Simbine's respective 100 meters title. He also wants to secure a podium finish at the World Championship in Oregon, USA in August.
Thank you, Nora, for that report.
A team of 15 Kenyan swimmers left the country today for Zambia ahead of the Kana Zone 4 Swimming Championship set to be held from the 14th to the 18th of this month in Lusaka. The junior team led by 22-year-old Imara Bella Thorpe and 17-year-old Evans Kanja will be heading to Zambia with the hope of conquering the tournament, which is a part of their preparations for the Commonwealth Games set for Birmingham mid this year. Other notable swimmers in the team are Nathan Matimu, Makrin Kalombo, Joel Nyakundi, Rana Ameya, Haniel Kadwoli and Maria Bianchi, who have all set best times during this season's event. More than 100 swimmers from more than 5 African countries will compete in the 4-day championship. The national under-20 rugby team has received a major sponsorship boost of 1 million Kenya shillings from Taita Sisal Estate as they prepare to face Namibia tomorrow in the semi-final match of the Rugby Africa Under-20 Bath Trophy at the Nyayo National Stadium. The Kenyan team qualified for the semi-finals after beating neighbours Uganda 54-20 in the quarter-finals last Wednesday, while Namibia defeated Ivory Coast 62-0 in their quarter-final match. Kenya won the previous 2 editions of the Bathurst Cup held in Nairobi after beating heavyweights Namibia 21-18 in the 2019 final at the KCB Sports Club and retained their title last year by defeating Madagascar 21-10 in the final at the Nyayo National Stadium. The 2020 edition did not take place due to the COVID-19 pandemic. FKF presidential aspirant Twaha Mbarak has reiterated his commitment to nurturing talents from the grassroots as it's the only sure way of reviving the dwindled standards of the football in the country. Twaha, who is a long-serving football administrator, believes the game can be revived by electing people who prioritize players' welfare. Twaha, who is also fronted by retired footballers in his presidential bid, has urged the FKF caretaker committee to move with speed and announce the roadmap to the election. Twaha, who will be vying alongside Andrew Amoka, is running on the manifesto of reviving the sport through a well-structured youth system and investing more in women football.
Kupitia kwa legends hawa na viongozi wote wa mpira tutashikana pamoja kuhakikisha kwamba mpira tumerudisha kwa wenye mpira. Kisha kwamba tunapeleka hii talent kila mahali. Hata huko Turkana, hata Wajia, hata Mandera, kote tutahakikisha kwamba tunatoa wachezaji ili waweze kucheza kwa national team. Hata sisi hamtaweza kuja Nairobi, sisi tutaleta scout hapa kuangalia nyinyi vijana ambao watacheza zile under 14, under 17, under 21 na zile senior team.
Those are all the sports stories we had for you tonight, but don't forget the first 2 second legs of the UEFA Champions League quarter-final matches will be played tonight, with Chelsea travelling to Real Madrid while Bayern meet Villarreal. Chelsea boss Thomas says he's hopeful that his side will overturn a 2-goal deficit